I'm a big shot, Gruber wailed. If she sees me in these swabby rags, she'll dump me for a real officer. The crew, driven by a mixture of boredom and loyalty, decided to help. They liberated a uniform from the laundry, a commander's whites, with enough gold braid to blind a man. The scene at the dock was a masterpiece of farce. Gruber stood stiffly in his borrowed glory as Ginger stepped off the plane. She was a vision of 1940s glamour, her hair in perfect Victory rolls. "Lester," she cried, throwing her arms around him. "Oh, Lester, you look so handsome." "A commander," Gruber beamed, his eyes darting around for any real officers who might recognize him. "Just doing my duty, pussycat. High-level strategy, you know, very hush-hush." But the USO show brought more than just romance. It brought Admiral Rafferty. McHale, caught between trying to hide the acting executive officer, Parker, who was currently wearing a native lei, and welcoming the Admiral, realized that the acting commander ruse was rapidly falling apart. Chapter 4. The Ghost of PT-13. The pressure was mounting. Binghamton, still recovering in the hospital, was feeding the Admiral stories about McHale's incompetence. To make matters worse, a rumor began to circulate that the PT-73 was actually the PT-13, a boat cursed by every sailor in the Pacific. "The 13 boat?" Virgil whispered by the campfire. "Every crew that sailed her drowned." The superstition took hold like a fever. Engines stalled for no reason. Strange lights appeared on the deck at night. Even McHale began to feel the weight of the jinx. Sensing an opportunity, the crew decided to turn the superstition against Binghamton. One night, they staged a haunting. Covered in white sheets and carrying lanterns that cast eerie, flickering shadows, they drifted through the hospital wards. McHale's voice, deepened by a megaphone, echoed through the halls. "Wally. Wally Binghamton. Return the transfers. Or join the ghosts of the 13. Binghamton, caught in a state of sleep-deprived terror, nearly fainted for real. But amidst the laughter of the prank, McHale found Elena watching him from the shadows. "You're playing with fire, Quentin," she said softly. "In this war, Elena, fire is the only thing that keeps us warm," he replied, the humor fading from his eyes. He reached out, his hand hovering near hers. For a moment, the ghost story was forgotten, replaced by the very real ghost of a future they both feared they might never see. Chapter 5. The Sultan's Ransom and the Princess's Dance. The arrival of the Sultan of Marami and his 3 daughters should have been Binghamton's moment of glory. It was a diplomatic mission of the highest order, but McHale, having rescued the Sultan from a forced landing, was already the guest of honor. The Sultan was a man of immense dignity, traveling with his most valuable possessions, his daughters. He was enchanted by the PT-73, even insisting on steering it, nearly ramming the dock in the process. Binghamton, desperate to regain control, threw a lavish dinner. But the evening was a comedy of errors. Parker, trying to impress Princess Siri, promised her a boat ride, unaware that the Sultan forbade his daughters from being alone with men. To cover for Parker, Gruber once again put on a disguise, this time as a princess. The sight of Gruber in a veil, trying to perform a traditional Marami dance, was enough to make even the Admiral question his sanity. Binghamton, sensing a fake, tried to unmask the imposter and ended up insulting the real princess. "You funny Balinese bunny," he shouted, only to realize he was shouting at the Sultan's eldest daughter. The Sultan was outraged. "Your unpardonable behavior will be reported to the State Department." As the Sultan stormed off, McHale managed to smooth things over with a humble apology and a promise of a ceremonial greeting, which involved the crew making chicken noises. The Sultan, amused by McHale's sheer audacity, gave him a small, silk-wrapped parcel. "For the woman who waits for you," the Sultan whispered. Inside was a single, perfect emerald, a gem that looked like the very heart of the Solomon Sea. Chapter 6. The Laughing Gas Gambit and the Hero of Taratupa. Captain Binghamton's frustration finally boiled over. He convened a fitness board to have Ensign Parker broken down to Seaman's second class. He was determined to purge the McHale infection from the base. A fitness board? Mikhail growled. Not if I can help it. The crew's plan was desperate. They had acquired a tank of nitrous oxide laughing gas from the base dentist. Their goal was to flood Binghamton's office before the board convened, making him so hysterical he couldn't testify. The plan was working. Binghamton was giggling like a schoolgirl, calling Parker Chucky Wucky and calling Mikhail his old pal. But then, the unthinkable happened. A real air raid sirens blared. Japanese bombers were overhead. While the giggling captain was incapacitated, Parker, still acting on the lingering effects of the gas and a sudden surge of adrenaline, ran out onto the field. He didn't seek cover. He stood in the middle of the runway, laughing in the face of death, and began firing a machine gun at a low-flying nip plane. By some miracle, he actually hit the fuel tank. The plane erupted in flames, crashing into the jungle. Admiral Shoemaker, who had arrived for the fitness board, was stunned. Anyone who would stand, laughing in the face of death, like that brave lad was born to be a combat officer. Instead of a court-martial, Parker received a commendation. Binghamton, as the gas wore off, could only watch in silent fury as his greatest imbecile became the hero of the island. Chapter 7. Sydney and the Missing Fortune. The final straw was the base payroll. $62,000 in small, unmarked bills. Binghamton had set a trap, leaving his wallet out for the pirates to find, hoping to catch them in the act of grand larceny. But it was Sydney, a friendly alligator whom the crew fed with peanut butter sandwiches, who found the wallet first. When the money went missing, Binghamton was triumphant. I've got you this time, Mikhail. Theft of the base payroll. You're finished. The court-martial was a spectacle. Parker, defending himself, claimed an alligator was the thief. The court roared with laughter until Mikhail and the crew led Sydney into the room. The alligator had the wallet firmly in his jaws. Exhibit A. Mahale announced as Sydney snapped at Binghamton, nearly taking the captain's finger off. The admiral dismissed the charges, concluding that Binghamton was suffering from combat fatigue and hallucinations. Chapter 8. Tides of the Heart. As the smoke cleared and the admiral's plane took off, Taratupa returned to its usual state of humid chaos. Mikhail stood on the beach, the emerald from the Sultan heavy in his pocket. He found Elena near the shore, watching the sunset. She looked tired, the strain of the war etched into her fine features. I hear you saved the base again, Quentin, she said, her voice barely a whisper over the sound of the waves. It was Sydney's doing. Mikhail smiled, stepping closer. He pulled out the silk parcel. I've been waiting for the right time to give this to you. The Sultan said it was for a woman worth finding. Elena opened it, the emerald glowing with an inner fire. Quentin, it's too much. I can't. It's not enough, he interrupted, taking her hand. This war, it takes so much from us. It takes our time, our friends, our peace. But it can't take this. He leaned in, and amidst the scent of salt and the distant roar of PT boat engines, they shared a kiss that promised a future far beyond the Solomon Sea. Nearby, the crew was celebrating. Gruber had finally told Ginger the truth, and to his shock, she didn't care. Lester, she laughed. I didn't fall for a commander. I fell for a boy from Brooklyn who can make me laugh. Parker was sitting on the pier, sharing a peanut butter sandwich with Sydney. He looked out at the horizon, no longer just a nervous ensign, but a man who had found his home. The war would go on. There would be more missions, more of Binghamton's schemes, and more long nights at sea. But on the island of Taratupa, the pirates had found something more valuable than gold or rank. They had found each other, and as the PT-73 rocked gently in the tide, the laughter of the crew echoed into the night, a defiant, beautiful song of hope against the silence of the stars. The end. Tides of Taratupa, a novel of war and longing. Chapter 1. The Weight of the Sky. The South Pacific sun was a physical weight, a white-hot hammer that beat against the corrugated tin roofs of the Taratupa Naval Base. Captain Wallace B. Binghamton, known to his men behind his back as Old Lead Bottom, sat in his office. The air thick with the smell of salt, stale coffee, and the impending doom of an inspection. Wow, he whispered to the empty room, rubbing his temples where a migraine was beginning to bloom.